Okay, so in May, I took a road trip from Minneapolis to the Pacific Northwest, and then did sort of a southeasterly loop back. The point of this 8,000 mile camping adventure was to visit as many national parks, and I had more than a dozen on the list, as I could, within reason, in 30 days. And of course photograph stuff. I got a text from the dude. Okay. May 13th, 2018, that was just this spring, I packed Old Blue, that is my 2005 Nissan Pathfinder. Had my two-man tent all the way up to a large family-sized tent, sleeping bag, backpack. Jumped in the car, drove practically straight through. I did a sleepover at a rest stop. Anyway, drove all the way to Seattle, Washington, went across Puget Sound, onward to Olympic National Park. Throughout the course of this journey, it lasted 30 days, so I was back mid-June. Of course, sleeping on the ground, camping, cooking with an LP stove, all that fun stuff, right? Ended up visiting 11 national parks, one national monument, which is basically a walkthrough. It was Oregon Caves. So we traveled through Washington, Oregon, Northern California, across Nevada, Utah. Last camp was in Colorado, and then back to Minneapolis. Along the way, I think I took over 5,000 individual photos. I had somewhere in the neighborhood of between 200 and 300 that I felt good about. And this was all very rapid fire. I had to go in. Average stay was 2 nights, so that's functionally 2 days, because day 3 you're always breaking down and you got to repack and everything, and then I'm off to the next adventure. And all of this was done seat of my pants, made no reservations, so I could get into the parks. Couldn't always get camping, but all in all, great adventure. I think it cured a little bit of anxiety I was having at the time. Winters are long. If you live in Minnesota, you understand the winters are long, claustrophobic. I wasn't monitoring email. I was doing very limited social media updates. Not a lot of screen opportunity at many of these parks anyway. It's difficult to get connectivity. Actually, good to note, if you're a traveler and you're driving out there and your GPS is dependent on your phone, you might want to look into a standalone GPS device. I had one from before phones had all that good stuff. It was the spring, which means a lot of overcast. It's still, snow on the ground. It was still very cold at night. Sustained winds, etc. But this was viewing it in a way that isn't the, classified, typical landscapes where everything's sunny or it's sunset or it's lovely, So the picture sort of captured that mood. Okay, so the places I visited during my 30-day trip, as I said, covered over 8,000 miles. First stop was Olympic National Park in Washington, followed by Mount Rainier, which was still under a great amount of heavy snow. Beautiful to see it that way. A lot of melt off, a lot of temporary waterfalls and so on. You get Crater Lake, of course, stunning. Lassen Volcanic, which I had read about, and so I put it on the list because it sounded very unique. Now, this might be one of those parks where its best season just may be winter. What I could see, what remained from the winter season, kind of letting me believe this probably is best seen that time of year. Mentioned the Oregon Caves, then it was on to California, Redwood National Park, followed by Yosemite, and then into Utah we had Zion, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, course, Arches National Park, and I ended the trip with a stay at Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado before returning to Minneapolis. I'm trying to think if there's anything of real practical value so far as advice. Things I'm glad I did before I left. I bought a decent O-ring watertight travel case. I bought a sling style strap. I bought a rain cover for the camera, but I never actually ended up using it. In terms of resources, it comes down to energy. You've got batteries for your equipment, you have fuel for the car, and of course you have the need for food and water for yourself. So always a good idea to have extra power cells, backup batteries. Obviously you can get the backup energy cells for cell phones. I purchased a 120 volt converter that I could plug a standard outlet into that plugs into the cigarette lighter outlet in my vehicle, which came in handy. You know, of course, with the limited cellular connectivity, I found it served me just as well to shut the phone off and simply conserve the battery until, you know, I was on a location where the connectivity was available. They say, well, why'd you go by yourself? Well, I don't have to accommodate anybody else's schedule, essentially. When it came time to go, it was time to go, and just less trifling that way, I think, for me. It's a no-brainer to say you need reliable transportation if you're going to tackle a road trip from, you know, the Midwest to the West Coast, or from the Midwest to the East Coast, or anywhere really. This could turn into a gearhead segment. My vehicle is a 2005 Nissan Pathfinder SUV. It is constructed on a truck frame. It is a very reliable vehicle. I did end up putting a set of new tires on it in Utah. The older tires were due, and I took it, you know, I had a flat, so I used that as an opportunity to just simply replace them all. Obviously, these are all important things when you're traveling on mountain roads: good brakes, good tires, reliable motor, reliable car or truck, whatever. Since returning from the trip, I did replace the suspension. The vehicle has over 140,000 miles on it. In fact, I think I'm probably closer to 150,000 miles at this point. So, put a new suspension on, something with a little more load capacity, a little higher performance, and while I was at it, I threw a 2-inch body lift in so that I can accommodate a larger tire. So where next? I've given it some thought, and there is a park in the middle of the Caribbean, a few hour boat ride south from Florida, called Dry Tortuga. I think I'd like to see that.